This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top questions and the things you struggle with most so you can have more energy and less decision fatigue about what to eat, how to move, and you can change your thoughts to Flip 50 with the life and the energy you love in this second half. My guest today is a woman who gets us. She's also flipping 50, and she, not long ago, weighed 300 pounds. I met Christy after her transformation had taken place, and I wanted to share her story with you, both because of the transformation and because of what she's doing today. What she does for others and her transformation are so related, and I wanted to share with you that we're going to reference Christianity in this podcast, so just in case you're prepared. Christy, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Christy, I'm going to do a little introduction for you, and then I'm going to ask you to take over so you can fill in the gaps. But here's what I know. Christy has worked with in so many different capacities of service, but none more moving and captivating than this, her current role as a healer and a mentor to many seeking release from the captivity of the tricks of the subconscious mind. I think we can all relate to that. Christy is the real deal. She teaches and guides people how to have authority over the body and the mind that God gave them and how to care for it in a way that nourishes and prolongs a life of health. Christy, fill in some gaps for us. Talk to me about what you do and why and how it helps. And then let's dive into your background and personal journey.
That sounds great, Deborah. Thank you so much. I am actually, right now, I'm considered an energy psychologist. I'm an energy healer, and I work with people on all different levels, but the main goal is to clear the subconscious mind. Because what we know right now is that with the subconscious mind, if there's issues holding on from the past, it kicks chemicals into your system. And with all the illnesses and all the things that everybody's facing right now, it's those chemicals that keep us revved up in symptoms. It keeps inflammation in your body. And no matter what you're trying to do, whether you're on the diet, you're doing the exercise plans, a lot of people, and especially women with autoimmune disease and dysfunction, they're finding that they can't out-diet the issues. You can't out-exercise the issues. So what else is going on? And that's when I dive into the subconscious part of it, and we start looking through, okay, what is holding on in the past? What negative feelings, emotions, things are you holding on to that are keeping you locked out of your health and even out of life? And when we clear some of those things up, then we'll start to see movement and change. Because people will get so far with a diet, you'll get so far with the exercise, maybe some of the doctors are helping, and it helps a little bit or for a small period of time, and then all of a sudden there's the roadblock again. So it's once people hit those roadblocks, that's where I tend to be able to step in and help out.
And so am I correct in intuiting that you came across the need to do this and the need for this by your own journey?
I did. My journey has been and probably still will continue to be a very interesting one. And I think like everybody, once you hit a certain place in your life and you recognize it's not going the way you had hoped, you start just searching, right? You search for everything you can to figure out how to change it. So I basically had topped out at about 300 pounds. And it wasn't about I was 300 pounds. When I looked down at the scale the last time I remember standing on it, that's what the needle landed on. And I just remember standing there feeling lost and confused. I was so angry at myself for letting my weight get to that point. But it wasn't like I was trying. I was going to a gym. I was doing diets. I was doing all of these things. And I didn't recognize or even realize all of the other parts, all the other components that were contributing to the weight gain that I wasn't addressing. So everything from all the medications they had me on, all the various, the different treatments, and it was just crazy some of the stuff I was doing. But the one thing nobody ever looked into or asked about was how I was on an inside level, how my internal feelings were, Nobody ever asked that question. Nobody ever asked, it's all the symptoms. We ask about the symptoms. What does that feel like? How is that going? Is that healing? Is that, your weight's a symptom? My asthma was a symptom. My thyroid problem was a symptom. My blood sugar was a symptom. All of these different things. But nobody ever looked at me and said, how are you? Where did you come from? And finally, the time a doctor looked at me and said that, I actually ended up in a psychiatric office, and he looked at me and said, tell me about your past. Tell me about your childhood. And I was like, I don't know my childhood. And he just sat there staring at me, and he kind of blinked a few times, and he says, that's a red flag. And I honestly didn't know what that meant. I was like, what do you mean it's a red flag? Like, who cares? Like, I never think about it. I don't know. Like, I just don't know. And it was then that I started realizing what I didn't know was probably what was killing me. And what I've learned since then, it's what I didn't know, that my body had learned so intimately that the chemicals that kept coming out of that thing that I couldn't remember, every time I would take a deep breath, every time I would go to do something, every time I heard my name, I was triggered back into a chemical reaction that came out of my past. And that's when it started getting interesting to me. I was like, wow, if it really works that way. And so for me, like, my asthma was all about, whatever had happened in that time period. And every time you take a breath, my body goes, oh, there's the breath. Let's remember to give her some chemicals. Here's your cortisol and here's your adrenaline, right? Have a little anxiety attack with your breath.
Wow.
All the time. When I solved that problem, not only did my asthma stop, I was actually able to take a deep breath. And so many other symptoms just started, like symptoms literally just stopping. A name is the same thing. My name did the same thing. Somebody would say my name, and it would trigger me straight back into my past. And I had no idea what it even was.
Wow. Okay, and I want to point something out because I know a little bit about your personal life. And at that point, there wasn't chaos going on elsewhere. It was all in your body, right? You tell the story. You had a great life, a great husband, 2 kids, beautiful house. I mean, you were the American icon, right?
Yeah. We had a beautiful home. We had, we had the cars, we had the kids. One kid was like at the top of her game. She was an ace student. She was an All-American. Even in college, she was All-American. Like, this kid was the top of her game. And then we had one son who seemed to take the brunt of every blow that our family probably had ever gone to before that or gone through. He had the illnesses and problems this poor kid was born with. And now what I understand with that, it's the idea of epigenetics and the science of what your environment is. The environment of your cell is what the gene expresses. And so his genes were born into this lifetime expressing all this illness and problems. And then how do you change that? So that was part of one of my goals when I had gotten so sick. He was probably 9 or 10 years old at the time and just struggling. And how do you change all that? How can you start to help somebody when you really don't know what the underneath of the problem is? We hear a lot right now in the news that inflammation is the base problem for pretty much every disease out there, right? If you can conquer your inflammation, you're going to get a huge head start into everything. But then you take a step back from underneath that, and you've got all these people going, but I do the diets. I'm doing the exercise. I'm like keeping my adrenaline system calm. I'm doing all the stuff I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm still, battling through symptoms. I remember one point in my journey in a gym. I was still working out with a trainer, and I remember walking in, and I had pretty much lost all my weight. I'd cut my body weight in half about at that point. And I woke up one morning, and it felt like I had balloons under my skin. It felt weird. I can't even explain it. And I remember walking up to him going, what is this? Like, what is going on with my body? And he looked at me like I was a nut. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And what I'm knowing now, what I'm understanding, because I still get that every once in a while, if I've eaten something that triggers my body back into it, is that it's inflammation occurring under my skin. If I get hold of the wrong thing and it triggers, it sends that signal, the gene expresses, and I end up with inflammation. Right? So it's this constant battle of trying to, okay, what did I just eat? What did I just do? Is it something subconscious, or is it really a food thing? And once you start to differentiate some of that stuff, it gets way easier. And I don't know, you take care of the subconscious part, and then you really are left with the diet. You really are left with, right, the other things that we can actually work on.
Yeah. Okay, so for listeners, let's really come back and dive into this. So from foundational terms, let's do a little vocabulary. What is the subconscious mind?
So the subconscious mind is actually a concept that we use to be able to speak about kind of the storage locker of your brain. It's where everything gets stored. When something happens, your brain locks into it, and you start building neuroplasticity. So it's where the protein and the neuron actually bond together in your brain, and you start to build matter to it. It's how you re-access, if you get triggered or you need to go back to a thought or an idea, or you need to go back to a scenario. It's where that storage is inside your brain that allows you to do that. So if you take the idea of a person, say, that does karate, and it's the repetitive motion they go through, like time and time again, it makes them faster and faster. If you look at that neuroplasticity, as it gets closer and closer together, the response is faster. And then their output, physically, their response is faster. If you're talking about a disease process, the faster that neuron and protein fire, and the more they're wired together, the faster you're probably going to get sick. The faster you're going to see inflammation, the faster you're going to see the issue, right? It works the same way. So if we're talking about releasing subconscious stress or releasing subconscious issues, it's just the concept that the brain is holding on to information, right? So inside your brain, it's actually that neuroplasticity, and we're just going in and taking that apart and letting your body relax enough that the emotional attachment, because it's not just the memory of what happened, it's also the chemicals that came along with the memory. And more times than not. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, okay, so dive in a little bit more to how do those past memories, how does the past affect us still today?
Yeah, so like with my own case, with my own stuff that was going on, my name was a huge issue for a long time, and I never recognized it. I worked in a kitchen, so I was a pastry chef. This was part of my weight issue. I was a pastry chef for 20-some-odd years. And doing that work, you've got people in and out of your kitchen all the time, people running by, they just call your name asking for whatever. I got to a point where just hearing my name would just almost make me crazy. And I even tried to change it at one point. I was telling people when they walked in to call me Mary. I did not want to hear my name.
Wow.
Awesome, right? I was like, this is craziness. And what I figured out since is a testimony one of my brothers gave me that kind of confirmed it for me was that what my mother had done with my name and the way she used it as a tool, she used it as almost like a hammer against me, that it was no wonder I had an issue with my name. So when the insult was happening, whatever it was she was doing, I locked into that. I had an emotion rev up from it, right? Probably fear, probably anger, whatever attached to that. You get the chemical compilation inside your body, so adrenaline, cortisol, neuroepinephrine, probably some other stuff mixed in there. And then you pull time forward, and I'm standing in my kitchen, and somebody yells, "Christy!" And I turn around, and I'm just ready to, scream. That name, wow. I didn't get the memory of the name. I got the memory of the chemicals in my body. Right? So I got the feeling. The feeling made me angry. And that anger takes me right back to, good Lord, what's wrong with me? I don't even know what's going on. And nothing just now happened. Except somebody said my name.
Wow.
Right? So I do a little bit of work on my name, and all of a sudden my name is actually a joy to hear. I get excited when I hear my name now.
Good. Because I've used it a couple of times here, right? Okay. So that's not very good bonding. All right, good. Okay, so let's say this, that, you've done the work. You've come to the realization, you know what happened. But what if somebody's listening and they're saying, I have a feeling, but I don't know exactly what it is, or maybe what is causing it? Then what?
Yeah, so we just trace the feeling. So it happens both directions. Either a person comes in and says, I have this memory. Every time this thing comes up, this is what I feel like. When I start feeling like this is what I do. I get anxious, I have anxiety attacks, I go to, into depression, I get super angry, whatever the thing is after that. They go into action, right? So if somebody comes in and says, I just have this feeling, and it just hurts, I don't know what this is, we take that feeling and we work backwards. We don't always know where it came from or why, but it's a chemical construction inside your body. The chemicals we know that cause stress in the system are cortisol and adrenaline. So if we take those chemicals, and I use the word move them just for lack of a better term, but we basically move them, get rid of them, and we put something else in its place. I teach you how to find your superhero. Feel a good feeling, and we put it where those other chemicals were. Now what happens? Now somebody walks up behind me, says my name, and instead of feeling angry or crazy, I just look at them and smile. Right? So I've effectively switched out what my brain is telling me to do and what the chemicals are that it's giving me as a result of hearing my name, or whatever the thing is. I worked with a young lady the other day. She came in with this horrible, horrible pain that started out of nowhere. She was relating it to a few different things that she thought may have caused it, and none of those things were the issue. We kept going through it and taking a look at it, and I finally just told her to stop for a second, take a few deep breaths. Let's just go into the feeling. Forget about the pain. Forget about what you're thinking. Let's just follow the feeling. And instead of doing anything with the other stuff, we just took the feeling and altered the feeling inside her cells, gave her a different way to feel. Her practice was to walk out the next week feeling that bigger feeling. Anytime anything came up that made her think of the pain, go into the pain, the issues around the pain, her goal was to find that different feeling. So we're basically at that point training, right? You're retraining your cells. I call it training a dog. You get to train a dog.
Or training a muscle, right?
Yeah.
Training a muscle. Yeah.
Yep. Same exact idea. Yep.
Wow.
And so
rehearsal.
Over a week, over the week, her pain was probably went from a 10, and I think the last message she just sent me was around a 2.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
and that's
cool.
It's so insightful how, and hopeful. I'm hoping that all of you listening can see whether or not you're dealing with something like inflammation that is, causing the same instance that Christy may have had, where you're doing all the right things. You're going to the gym, you're doing the exercise, you're following it, you're looking at the program, following it to a T, but not seeing results. That if that's you, versus, you may also not have that, but it's just that you get a little down on yourself or you're self-critical. You can switch your mind by conditioning it just like you would conditioning any muscle that you want to work on with a dumbbell, right?
Right.
So you're moments away from feeling better.
Well, and the goal is to get it to where it turns into your subconscious truth, right? You want it to be something where your brain automatically defaults to that information.
Yeah.
So what I do in my practice is we walk you all the way through it. We want to get 1 minute before the issue, before the feeling started, before the whatever. And sometimes if we don't know, so like in my case, figuring that out was pretty tough because I don't know my past. I don't remember my childhood. So what's 1 minute before that? I'm in the womb. I'm not even born yet. That's 1 minute before it. Does it work that way? Can you go inside your cells and actually speak words of life that will benefit you? And cement stuff into your cells that when you walk forward in your life, you actually feel the energy of that new word, of that new concept, of that new idea. And that's
powerful.
What it's turned into. Yeah, that's what we do now. Yep.
Really
very
powerful. Okay, so for a listener who's thinking, well, I've heard of affirmations or, prayer or meditation, mantras, I've done tapping or therapy, and I feel great, but, it seems like nothing ever sticks. So why would that be?
My only thought, I have a couple of different thoughts on that. One of them is that you didn't get to the subconscious core of it, right? Or that minute before. When you're doing an affirmation, think about what you're doing. If you sit there and say that thing often enough, the idea is that eventually you'll embed it into your subconscious mind. You'll get it in deep enough that you'll start to believe it. But repetition, just like the guy doing karate, you have to do that movement 1,000 times or more. Most people won't stick with the process that long. Most people won't stand there and say that affirmation or look at it enough or, hold on to it enough to really embed it into their subconscious mind. So affirmations, mantras, those kind of things, unless you get your brain into an open enough state, like an alpha wave state where you're in alpha coherence, you're not going to get it into the subconscious, right? That repetition, most people won't do it. So, and with any issue, it's not even the mantras, prayer work is an interesting one because if you're tapping into the spirit, you get a different result, right? You talk to any Christian or any person who does kind of spiritual, even, from whatever perspective, it doesn't even matter. If you tap into the spirit and get into that place, what it does in your brain is throw you into that different coherence. Where's the miracles, right? That's where miracles lie.
Yeah.
Right? What state is your body in? So here's the person like doing law of attraction, sitting on their couch saying over and over to themselves, bring me $1 million, bring me $1 million, bring me $1 million. But what is their emotional state? They don't believe that's going to happen. Most people are sitting there saying it with cortisol in their system.
Yeah.
Right? It's not going to work.
Yeah.
You got to get your chemicals up. You got to get those good feeling chemicals in your system, and what that does in your brain is activate different centers that you wouldn't be activating otherwise. Pineal gland, some of those kind of things start turning on and clicking. It gives you that different connection. So unless you get connected that way, and unless you get your place where we can get those chemicals in your system and really train them in there, and then all of a sudden the world changes. I was working, she just now sent me this email. I just now got an email from a young lady who does body work for people. She lives up in Boston. And I had texted her and asked her, I sent her actually a recording of her last session. And it's like, how you doing? She says, I'm doing amazing. My energy is way up the past few days. Pre-work anxiety is way down. And my intuitive abilities are way up.
Wow.
And I look at that kind of stuff and I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what are you doing? I had somebody the other day send me one that said her clients are, she called it spontaneously healing themselves.
Wow.
Because her abilities have gone. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what is that? But I think when your subconscious mind is clear and your chemicals are in the position where the body can heal and your body function comes back online, that's part of a natural body function, is that intuitive ability and that capability, and I really think that's a part of everybody's system.
Yeah, that's wild, really wild. I want to kind of circle back a little bit, if you're okay with this. We started, with this journey of you having been somebody who looked at the scale at 300 pounds and then went through all this frustration. And, when we met last fall, you had actually been, 8 years from that loss and maintained it. But yet we're still not necessarily dressing the part. We happen to be somewhere where appearances were everything for those couple of days anyway, and you were not putting yourself into clothing that really represented Christy today. Talk just a little bit about that, because I think every woman listening can identify.
Yeah, I think what you were talking about, we were at a conference, and I'm walking around wearing my stomping shoes. I call them stomping shoes. They're like the Keen loafers or whatever that you can go stomp on the beach in.
Yeah.
And I think I had some cut-off jeans and, I don't know, a raggy shirt, and I was wearing some kind of wrap around my arm or something. And a number of people actually had walked up to me and mentioned that look matters. What are you trying to look like? I was like, oh, seriously? Seriously. I'm comfortable. To me, that was comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I was standing there talking to somebody, and we were walking, and I remember swinging my hips out really far to the side to avoid hitting the corner of a table. And when I looked back and looked at it, the table itself was probably 3 feet from me. And I was still moving my body in such a way that my body was like feet from where it actually was, because in my cellular memory is still that of being huge. Is the only thing I could think of. I've done work on that since. When I realized that, I was like, oh, no way. And it also helped me change the way that I dress and support myself in that manner. Because I did. I still felt like I had to go, into Kmart or wherever and go into the bigger section, because I wouldn't even allow myself to buy nice clothes. It was like I deserved to wear lesser things, and I deserved to wear, which is just absolutely crazy. Like, why would you deserve that? That goes back to my mother and my childhood.
So this has probably been 6 months, at least 6 months, since we first met, and you had that experience in front of me, which was so profound. And then for me to more recently find out it's been 8 years since and so it takes time, right, to match the body and the mind to, your true identity now. So in that 6-7 months, so where are you now? Has it changed?
Goodness. Oh, yeah, changed drastically, like dramatically changed, because when I recognized it, because I didn't even recognize it as an issue until people started pointing at me, and I couldn't even get up on the stage because I wasn't dressed. I was asked at that point, do you want to go? And no, like, you can't dress like this. Can you have anything else to wear? I didn't even have anything else to wear. And so, I had to go to the store, and I, went to Nordstrom's and all these places. I didn't even know. Like, I was looking at clothes. I had somebody I kept texting, and I was like, look at this. What do you think of this? Look at this. And I was, like, snapping pictures, sending them to her. So, like, I don't even know. She's like, well, what do you like? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what I like. So I'm trying all this stuff on. I was just like, oh, my gosh, this is insanity. Yeah, it was nuts in my head. I actually put on a pair of jeans that had buttons on it, and I was wearing, like, a size 8. I looked at him, I was like, there's no way this is going to even close on my body. Like, there is no way. And all of a sudden, I'm like, really? Seriously? That's interesting. Yeah, how crazy. That's crazy. So, it totally changed. But what I did was I sat down and I did some work on it, right? So I'm looking at clothes, and I'm talking to my cells, and I'm talking to my body, and I'm like, you aren't that big anymore. I'm, like, literally talking to my body about it. Like, this is really, like, look in a mirror, see how big you actually are. I remember Oprah Winfrey on one of her shows once. She had the whole audience with string in their hand. And she goes, don't look down at your hips, but I want you to hold that string in front of you. Do you remember this? And hold it, like, however wide you think your hips are. And everybody was almost double whatever was real, because then she had them hold it down to their waist so they could actually see what was true. Yeah, that was crazy to me. I was like, wow. That's exactly what I'm still doing. I swing my body out way wide when I walk around stuff, because I still don't recognize where my body starts and ends. So that was like sitting down and just going, okay, this is, like, I can walk in a straight line and not have to dodge things.
Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that story. So glad. So thank you so much. And then, this is the biggest question of the entire interview, Christy. Is there a question you wish I would have asked you?
Oh, my. Is there a question I wish I
No
would have
pressure.
Yeah. Wow. Maybe how does it really change? How easy is it to change?
Okay. I like the phrasing of that question. How easy is it to change?
It's way easier than most people think. I think it's it's like the white elephant in the room amongst all the stuff that people look at and try and do. is that when you put your body, and it's literally a physiological effect, when you cross midline of your body, we get the brain engaged in a different pattern, because the brain's always seeking stability, and we know this from the gym, right? Mm-hmm. It works the same way with memories. It works the same way with emotions. It works the same way with thoughts. And in those few minutes that you're standing there holding a pattern, thinking about a thought, or getting really specific, all of a sudden stuff changed. So we're talking about a matter of minutes. So when I recognized, when all you guys were talking to me about clothes, and I'm just standing there going, what the heck is going on? Am I having an issue with clothes? That's exactly what I did, was sit down, and I call it a balance. I sat down and balanced it in my system. And then I was able to go, I actually went to a store and spent about $500 on clothes, and was just like totally blown away that I didn't have to wear T-shirts that were too big.
Okay, and that day, and the couple that followed it, you got quite a few compliments, as I remember. Were you comfortable with that?
I was really excited.
Good. Okay.
I was really excited. I think that's part of doing some of the work, is it doesn't just change the issue. It's because it's connected to everything. Like, we're not working, and you are working on a specific thing, but you're not, because it's all connected. So when I go in and look at clothes, and I'm standing there doing a balance in a store, trying to make myself feel okay and get my body in tune and in alignment that it's okay to wear stuff like this, I get excited in my system because I'm getting those good chemicals in my system. And then somebody compliments me on the thing I just picked out, and those chemicals come right back. And it feels good.
That's so awesome.
There's no discord or the lack of harmony with some of that kind of stuff. We'll have like a double-mindedness to it. That's not in alignment. So this just brings it right into alignment.
Yeah, such a great point. So listeners, I'm going to call your attention to that again. So whether you're dealing with issues, with weight loss, or maybe getting where you want to go energetically, and you're doing all the right things, or think that you are, there is this piece of, all of us, I think, as women can be a little, we have resistance to accepting a compliment. Yep. And, I would say to yourself, just right now, for now, just enhance your awareness of that. Call yourself on it. When you feel like you have to apologetically accept a compliment, ask yourself, what's that about? Why can't I just say thank you and enjoy that? And all you're doing, I think, is taking that first step to ask, and find out what it's about. Christy, you have two great books. Yeah, please add something.
Say, can I add something right on top of that? I would go a step further, and I would say, put yourself in a situation where somebody's going to give you a compliment. Know that you're going to get uncomfortable. And before you get to that point, think of something that really makes you feel good. Right? By thought alone, you can bring chemicals into your system. So you're going to stand there and go, okay, I'm going to think of something that makes me feel good. And then you're going to go see if you can coax a compliment out of somebody, or whatever it is that makes you feel uncomfortable while you've got those good chemicals in your system. What you will find out is you can't do both at the same time. I can't get upset and feel uncomfortable while I've got good chemicals in my system. And then you're into training, training the cells, training the muscle, like I call it training the dog. We're in training mode. Your cells go, oh, wait a minute, that actually felt kind of good. Well, you've got the good chemicals in there. Does that make sense? So you want to try and do whatever the thing is first with the good chemicals in there, and then walk through it.
Yep. I can imagine that for myself. Absolutely. There's a world of difference.
It's a good tool.
Yeah. Love that. Thank you so much for that. Just an instant help right there. And you've got two great books that I know, one or the other, and potentially both, may appeal to somebody listening. So just briefly mention those, and then I want to make sure that they know where to get those and more, Christy.
That's awesome. Thank you. Both of my books, actually, not most of them, both of them are on Amazon. Both of them are pretty short reads. And that was very intentional. I want you to be able to pick it up, get through it, and get the information quickly and easily. One of them is called Change, How to Rewire Your Mind. So we're literally talking about the process that I use with clients and what I do for people all the time. And then the other one's about combating autoimmune disease and winning. Right? So it's kind of like I said before, it's that missing piece, it's that white elephant in the room that nobody talks about. When you're doing everything right, you've got the diet lined up, you're doing the detoxes, all the stuff is in order, right? What's missing? If it's something in your subconscious mind, that could be the trigger that throws everything else into alignment and gets you back to the health that you deserve and that you want. So you can find both of those online. And then I've got a website that's called mindrewire.com, and you can go there and look through. And actually you can go there, and on the front page there is a place where you can just click and book yourself a little 30-minute appointment. It's a strategy appointment where we just talk about how something like Mind Rewire could potentially help you get to your goals, whether it's health or something else, whatever it is you're struggling with. If it's subconscious, we chase that out first because I want to make sure that what I do will be effective for you. And if it's not, I give you other ideas and places that you can look or go to.
That's awesome. What a generous offer. I love that. And I know that there are listeners who, are doing, everything that they can and still not finding results. So useful. Christy, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
And listeners, in case we didn't cover all the questions that you have or we brought up some new ones, leave them below the show link at flipping50.com and join us on the Flipping 50 TV Facebook page to get all the juicy resources, the links to Christy's books, the appointment, and visit her website. You can join and look at the show notes in today's episode at flipping50.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed the show, just a favor, please leave a rating in iTunes and then share this with a friend to surround yourself with a supportive community of women on the same journey. What are you waiting for? Start Flipping 50 today.